Welcome, everybody, to the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. This is the Water Quality Management Committee. It is May 28, 2025, approximately 9 a.m. Jared has informed me that we do have a quorum today, but we are going to do introductions. I'm Jonathan Moore with Fountain Sanitation District in Lower Fountain. I chair this committee. We'll just go around the room here, everybody here, and then we'll do online.
Hi, Angie Martell, Environmental Planner with PPACG.
Roy Heald, Security, Water and Sanitation Districts.
Thank you. All right, folks online, let's go alphabetical by first name.
Ann Ish, Green Mountain Falls.
Brandon Bernard, Security, Water and Sanitation Districts.
Oh. I'm the other Brandon Zimbles from Cherokee Metropolitan District.
Connie King, law firm. I represent Security, Upper Monument, and Lower Fountain.
JD Shivers with Goodman Hills.
Roger Sams with GMS.
Hi.
Metropolitan.
Hi, this is Patty Zitla with Colorado Springs Utilities and AFCure.
We get everybody? All right. Andy says we got everybody. All righty. Any changes to the agenda today? Anybody got anything they want to change? Angie, hearing none. I'm going to approve of that by consent. Item number 3, approval of the meeting minutes from April 23rd, 2025. Any changes to that? Hearing none, I'm going to approve that by consent. All right, public comment. Anybody from the public that would like to make I was going to say presentation, but how about a comment? Hearing none. All right. Action items number 5. Site application, Las Vegas Street Water Resource Recovery Facility. Gina, you have the floor. We'll ask Jared if there we go, we can see it.
Okay. Just gonna hit presentation mode and get started here. Just making sure everyone can see the presentation on their screens before I start talking. Okay. So thanks everybody for letting me present to you again, for some of you for a third time. So thank you so much for hearing me. I'm here to present on behalf of Colorado Springs Utilities, the Blended Sludge Pump Station Improvements project at Las Vegas Street Water Resource Recovery Facility. I'll try to be kind of broad to keep this quick since a lot of you have heard this presentation already. But please feel free to ask questions if you have any. I'll start here with a project overview and then talk about the general info from the current site application at Las Vegas Street Water Resource Recovery Facility. Then we'll take a look at the proposed site plan and all of our proposed improvements at the blended sludge pump station. So for a project overview, we'll start with project location generally. In the city of Colorado Springs is where the Las Vegas Street Water Resource Recovery Facility is located. The project itself will be at the blended sludge pump station, which is in the red box here at the facility on the right side. Site overview here, it's one of 2 water resource recovery facilities operated by Colorado Springs Utilities. It processes wastewater from the central and southern parts of Colorado Springs. The current permitted capacity is 75 MGD. The plant contains preliminary, primary, secondary, and disinfection treatment before it discharges effluent to Fountain Creek, which it directly borders. And it currently receives and processes about 30 MGD of wastewater. Again, project location is at the Las Vegas Street wastewater treatment plant, existing building here. It provides storage. So the building itself, the BSPS and the adjacent wet well, provides storage and pumping of the primary sludge and thickened waste activated sludge, or TWAS. At the downstream end of the pumps, there's an 18-mile long pipeline that's existing that goes all the way to Clear Spring Ranch. The primary sludge received at the BSPS includes solids from J.D. Phillips. And inside the pump station, there's 3 existing quadruple acting piston diaphragm pumps that are used to pump the blended sludge to Clear Spring Ranch through that 18-mile long pipeline. And those 3 pumps are represented on the bottom left photo, and they're those blue pumps on the left. And then each of those pumps has a grinder on the suction end, which is in the right-hand side photo behind that panel in the view I'm showing there. 2 of the pumps within the pump station were installed in 1983, and the 3rd one was installed in 1997. So the oldest pumps there are over 40 years old now. The existing blended sludge pumps provide a capacity of 525 gallons per minute, but a firm capacity of 350 GPM each. And as you all maybe know, the BSPS is a critical system at Las Vegas Street. There is no redundant method of conveying that sludge or those residuals from Las Vegas Street to Clear Spring Ranch for further treatment. So our project overview here, we're replacing the blended sludge pumps themselves. Those 3 pumps inside the building will be getting replaced. The grinders on the upstream end, associated piping within those that we can replace as part of this existing project. Electrical instrumentation and control systems associated with the pumps, piping, and the grinders, and other required ancillary equipment associated with the above items. The purpose of the project is, again, addressing that aging infrastructure. 2 out of the 3 pumps are 40 years old now, so we're replacing all of them as we go in. And we're providing adequate capacity for the future flows and loads, but not increasing the capacity of the pump station, which I'll get to in a sec here. So the existing site approval information. The existing site, again, is permitted at 75 MGD in total, using 30 currently. The project driver here is to replace aging infrastructure and add redundancy, not meet future flows. The intent isn't increasing the capacity of the pump station. The site information that is unaffected as part of this project is the service area, the flows, organic loading, emergency storage, facility maintenance and ownership, and land use. All of those items will stay as is before and after this project. We'll take a look at the proposed site plan here. Here's our existing Revit model of the site from a LiDAR scan. In the yellow cloud is kind of the major affected item within the pump station. The existing configuration is 3 pumps, which is a 2+1 redundancy. So we have 2 duty, 1 standby here. And as part of this project, we'll be increasing to have 2 duty, 2 standby. So there's true redundancy in the pump station after this project. And in order to do that, where the yellow cloud is, where the current influent piping comes into the building, in the yellow cloud, we're going to be moving that and adding a 4th pump in its place. So you'll kind of see as I flash to the next screen here where that piping is moving. So where that piping was, you can see the new 4th pump here, and then that influent piping will move to the east wall and be routed along the walls instead of coming through the middle of the room. So in summary, kind of capacity changes here. So the existing and proposed flow, we have 2 duty pumps in both scenarios. Existing is the 2+1, proposed is 2+2, so full redundancy there. But the reason we're here today is because this isn't considered an in-kind replacement under Regulation 2022 due to the slight capacity increase. So you can see in the table here, overall, the percent increase with the new pumps is 17% capacity. And that's just inherently with the new models across the 40 years that these pumps have been in place. The current models of those pumps just have a 17% total capacity increase. So that's it for me. Happy to answer any questions or go more in depth than anything.
Thank you. Questions? I'm not seeing any hands raised online or anything else. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Too easy.
Appreciate it.
All right. Do we have a recommendation from this committee to move this on?
This is Roy. I'd move to recommend advancement of this application to the full PPACG.
Okay.
This is Kevin. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. You're good to go to the next step. Get with Angie on that. She knows what the next step is. All right, item number 6, discussion items. Item A, follow up on feasibility and implementation. Angie.
All right, so last meeting, we had a presentation from CDPHE and a pretty good conversation. We got a little bit cut off just because there was so much discussion around the topic. So a question for you all is, are there any follow-up questions you'd like me to pass on to CDPHE, or would it be helpful to have them visit with us again? We could just do like a virtual one and we have another Q&A session. Do you feel like you got your questions answered? Do you want to have more discussion about that?
This is Kevin from Cherokee. Have you heard anything from them since the presentation?
Yeah, so the main thing that I've heard from them is that we had a question during that last presentation about how are we defining the data? What exactly does this or that mean? And also how are you all supposed to get your data to them if you wanted to? And they didn't have a real good system for that yet. So what they followed up with me is that they are working on that, putting actual definitions to each piece of data. They're going to build a form for everyone to submit your data more all the same. So they're working on how that gets submitted and defining the data, and then they're going to get that to us. But that's where they are in the process, and they have still not given me any deadline. They're just like, we're working on it. So that's all I know. But we are in communication about like that they're working on it. So I'll share that with you as soon as I have it, but that's the only update I got.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate. This is Roy from security. To wait and see what the form looks like and maybe be allowed to comment on that to seek clarification or whatever. So
Okay.
not sure there's much we can do until then.
Okay.
Do you know if they're gonna provide like a formal letter requesting the data with the form? Because that would be helpful for us to have.
Okay. They haven't said anything about a letter, but I can ask for something more formal on that. Because right now it's just been, hey, can we get some data? So we'll get a more formal letter.
Anybody else online have a comment or question for Angie?
Is Angie going to talk some more about item B? Is
Yeah, we're going to get to item B next.
that might be when I'd want to say something. Thank you.
All right, well, let's get right into item B then, the site application review process to a plan update. Angie.
Okay. So since I built this agenda, as of the last 2 days, there's been a big changes here with this, what I was going to present on this site application review process. So anyway, I'll just start from the beginning. The last SARC meeting we had, we discussed the site application review process. There's a lot of redundancy. The applicant, as applicant today knows, has to go through a lot of presentations to all the same people. Well, a lot of the same people. and it's time consuming for them and for us. So we talked about potentially changing the site application review process to get rid of the SARC, except for when, we can reactivate it at any time. So if we really need it, we'll reactivate the SARC, but otherwise the applicant shouldn't have to go through the SARC. They can just skip that, go to the WQMC. So the SARC voted that that was a good idea. And part of our update process for the 208 plan was going to be this year we were going to update the site application review process. But as we started looking at that and talking to other people about, different changes that we thought needed to be made in that, it's a much bigger changes than we thought we needed to make, and I can go into that later. So then I decided we're going to push the update of that site application review process to our 2026 funding from CDPHE. So was gonna just get you guys to vote on if you thought we should remove the SARC or not. But now we are no longer updating that like immediately. We also have some new funding coming from CDPHE that is going to take a larger look at the 208 plan and update it like a full-blown update within a couple of phases, so we can do it more systematically rather than doing these couple of little edits here and there all the time. So more to come on that. And I'll probably our next meeting will have more definite direction on where we're going with updating the 208 plan, just because our funding is shifting right now. But I guess with that, any thoughts on what this group thinks about moving the SARC and getting rid of it, except for when we especially need it?
Yes, this is Roy, and I think I missed that discussion last month, or maybe that was a discussion within the SARC, but in any event, I have some opinions on that. And I guess to start with, I'll play the role of a historian, because apparently I'm relegated to being kind of an artifact at this point. But the way I viewed it was that the SARC was the technical experts that advised the rest of us on matters involving site applications. And back in the day, I think it was less common to have district managers being engineers or highly certified operators than it is now. Now we have an abundance of engineers that are district managers, which, may be good, but it makes meetings a lot more boring. In any event, that was my view of the role of the SARC, was to advise those non-technical people who were voting on this stuff and recommending advancement to the full PPA-CG, which likewise, my assumption is they're not a bunch of engineers either. So you have a small group of people that are technical experts in matters of site applications that have been through that process before. And I remember people bringing up issues of like, did they post the sign that you have to post at a wastewater treatment plant? Or have they verified that the entity who's promoting the project has ownership of the property, or the ability to acquire it? Things like that I don't really think of that much, but they'd been through the process before, so they knew to bring up those questions. Again, things have changed a little bit now, but in a sense, the SARC to me is the most important group in the process. And even with the Lower Fountain, we go through this. Maybe it would be better to have the SARC review the application first before anybody else sees it, and then take it to the Lower Fountain and to this group and so on. Angie, you talked about, well, I'm not sure exactly what the recommendation was. I don't think the SARC should be disbanded. I think it would be possible to use it maybe more judiciously. But I think it's really important, and I think it should be a body. I think there should be a small group of people that are assigned to the SARC that can meet, uh, uh, you know, fairly quickly and should have that technical expertise. So there you go.
I appreciate that background. And the exact movement from the SARC was, well, I don't have it word for word in front of me, I'm sorry, but basically disband the SARC unless from some extenuating circumstances we decided to bring it up for a certain application. So we are not making this change right now. I think it's clear we need to have more discussion about it. And any other comments from this group about getting rid of the SARC? It's certainly not, I just want to be clear, it's not something we're doing right away. It's for discussion.
Hey, Angie, this is Patty. I just wanted to point out that on the CDPHE Water Quality Control Division site application form, we're required to list the 208 designated planning agency, which is the PPACG SARC, on that as one of the review entities for our projects. And we have to provide proof that we, submitted our project to the SARC for approval as part of their process. So that would be another consideration if you do decide to abandon it.
The form requires a PPACG signature, but hasn't required a SARC signature. Is there a different form?
Yeah, the form, I'm actually looking at the form now. So it's the site application location approval form. And it does say 208 designated planning agency. So we have to put in that, there's a box to put in, identify the designated water quality management agency. There you go. Perfect. And then if you go down, it does ask for the 208 planning agency. So typically that's been PPACG. So I know in the past that it's been the PPACG SARC that's gone into that box. So so if we got rid of the SARC, I don't know who we would send it to at the 208 designated planning agency. Maybe just what we have in here would suffice. But we just have to make sure if we do get rid of it that we're also paying attention to this form and how this would affect the state's review process.
So that box is to verify that that the application has gone through PPACG's site application review process. So whatever we determine is our site application review process within our 208 plan, we are signing the box. PPACG is the designated 208 planning agency that signs that section of the form. And so it has to be consistent with our 208 plan, which currently says it went through Lower Fountain or Lower Water Quality Management Agency, and then SARC, and then WQMC, then the CAC, then the board. So as long as they follow our process, which we've outlined in our 208 plan, that's what that signature means.
Yeah, got that. So for now, because the procedure does include the SARC, until that would be changed, we're kind of needing to follow that.
Yeah. Correct.
Well, I guess in my mind, the SARC is a committee of the Water Quality Management Committee or subcommittee. So to me, it's the Water Quality Management Committee that signs off on the form, not the SARC per se.
Right, and it's really the PPACG. I mean, it's Angie's group that signs it. I sign on the Lower Fountain as the chair, but then I don't sign for the SARC or for this committee. And then, yeah. But, I mean, to get back to Roy's point, you're right. We have a ton of engineers now that are involved and higher up. And it's the same engineers that are seeing it at Lower Fountain, the same engineers are seeing it at SARC, and the same engineers are seeing it at this committee. So it's hard for engineers to not look at something technically, I guess. And we are a lot of fun, for the record. I just want to point, that out. But that's why, I mean, part of the discussion we had with the SARC last month was, do we want to have a meeting for the sake of having a meeting? And I'm not about that. And I voiced that in that meeting. And a lot of us had that discussion like, well, if we don't need to have it, and we got the same technical review we're having at the lower fountain that goes to this committee, why have it? But I remember Brandon brought up a good point from security saying, well, what if we need it again? And so that vote was contingent on, hey, if we ever need to convene the SARC, we could.
But
It's not-
again, I just think that the SARC needs to be in place and those people need to be named. Otherwise, it's really going to bog down the process to say, oh, we need the SARC for this wastewater plant and not have it ready to go. So, and I guess the other point is, sometimes these applications are hundreds of pages long. Does every member of this committee need to read through all that, or can they kind of take the recommendation of the SARC and have like 3 people read it cover to cover?
And that's something we can do. We can really pin down the core members of the SARC, and I think, when we have our next SARC meeting, maybe that's something we look at doing.
Yeah, we currently do have a SARC roster, and I can share that with everyone and just, it's public information. We can just go through it and make sure that everyone's good with that. And we could keep that in place, not make that go away. So everyone who knows they're on the SARC, if we need to call them up, you're on the SARC.
And we don't even have meetings monthly unless there's an agenda item. So I guess the next time we need to meet, then we can dive into what Roy's saying and really kind of say, all right, who's gone to volunteer told to be the 4 or 3 people that are the core members. And they should either be senior operators or engineers type of thing. So I'm looking at Kevin right now because I know he's an engineer. So, yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, not to interrupt, Brandon has his hand raised online.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's hard for me to see that from.
No
Brandon.
worries. I just wanted to voice that I guess I would really be in favor of kind of what Roy brought up, is maybe switching the order and having the SARC review it first. And then based off of that, considering right now, you're president of both, but assuming that the SARC is the technical expertise, and then if it does choose to move on to the next process, potentially there could be some side conversation as to whether or not the lower fountain wanted to include it on their agenda or take the approval of the SARC and just, let it move on to the next stage just to shorten the process. I just think it might be favorable to, instead of trying to get rid of the SARC, make it the priority, and then communications can be had, because if that's the technical expertise, that's kind of who we really want, approving it and moving it on. And then lower fountain can choose whether or not they want to have it on their agenda, or if they just want to approve it based off of SARC's recommendation without a presentation.
Yeah, I'd like that. I just don't know if lower fountain, because I sign these applications for the lower fountain. Does a lower fountain have to hear it no matter what?
The Water Quality Management Agency is a signatory block on the application form, or at least has to be notified. So, designated management agency. So that's a water, that would be lower fountain or other designated for whatever different area. So that part does have to be in the process, but you wouldn't necessarily have to have a presentation every time and discussion. It could be on your approval agenda or something like
The
that.
SARC could recommend approval, and then me being part of both, I could, just ask everybody, are you guys good with me signing this as lower fountain? And if we take a vote and everyone says good, then we're good. And we don't have to have it that second one. So I'm totally good with that.
Because what we're seeing is a lot of, even though the presentation we just witnessed isn't technically a replacement in kind, it, for the most part, it is. And so if the SARC, for instance, says, yeah, this is pretty cut and dry, we recommend it moving, So I guess after that, it would definitely be the Water Quality Management Committee, right? If Lower
Mhm.
Fountain chose to just move it forward, yeah. I think that system would work pretty well if we could make that happen.
What does this committee think of that? Give us some feedback, because I like what Brandon said. I'm good with that.
I think I'm good with that as well. I have what could be a dumb question, but aside from satisfying CDPHE's requirement for the 208 agency review, what is our goal in reviewing site apps? I think it would be helpful to define that before we start changing our process. And I'm pretty new, but in my mind, it's not well defined what we're trying to accomplish through our reviews.
Is there a definition in the 208 plan that
We should probably include that.
Well, I think that's the goal, is to make sure the application is in line with the 208 plan. And I don't know, maybe as part of the 208 plan, we develop a checklist or something.
Mhm.
But I think that's exactly it. And it is kind of incumbent on us locals to make sure, because we developed the 208 plan. So it's up to us to make sure that's happening.
I do have a checklist I give the applicants, because they always ask, what should we present on? So it's a pretty small checklist of, I don't know, 10 items, just big picture items, but.
But I just think that should align with the 208 plan.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe we work on the checklist that we provide to everyone. So it's not just, Lower Fountain has a different checklist than some other water quality management agency. And then you're right, Roy, the overall goal is to be consistent with the 208 plan, but maybe we could be more specific with that definition. It's kind of specific, but maybe not specific enough.
I think the overall is, does it meet the 208 plan, and are we being efficient? Is where I'm coming from too, so.
Well, and I guess if it's primarily consistency with the 208 plan, do we need a highly technical review to determine that? Because as I understand the 208 plan, it's more of a management approach. And so I think as an engineer, I like to get in the weeds and, and I think there's a place for that. And if that's what we want to do, we should do that through the SARC. But if we're just trying to ensure compliance with the 208 plan, I don't know that the SARC seems to me a little overkill for just compliance with the 208 plan, but that's my opinion.
I think there are some other nuances that are not captured and be consistent with the 208 plan. Like, we have to verify that they're technically and financially capable of running their operation. There's little things like that. So I think the technical aspect still fits in. You got to make sure that I'm not an engineer at all. But
you say that with kind of, this.
There's been some pressure to be an engineer, and I'll be clear. So anyway, I think that there's room to define it a little more clearly and express, the need for the technical review and stuff like that.
I guess I always thought that the role of the SARC was also to be helpful to the applicant because again, the SARC members have been through this and they know what the state requires, although that's, that probably changes. But I think the goal is to try to head off problems too that the applicant may not be aware of, but that the folks on the SARC know about. So to help kind of facilitate the process and to an extent streamline it rather than bog it down.
I agree with that. And we have a lot of expertise with all of our districts and even CSU. If they're planning something and we're like, hey, this is going to have this effect, and you might not know that. In the last 6 years, we've had a lot of good discussions with applicants that I think have been helpful to them and saved them money. So.
And Mr. Chair, just a heads up, Patty has her hand
Yes,
raised.
Patty, please.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to provide a reminder that the CDPHE Water Quality Control Division Regulation 22 and Section 22.8 outlines the site location application process. And it does state in there that the 208 Planning Agency, one of their roles is to certify that For example, a proposed interceptor sewer has the capacity to carry the projected flow and is consistent with a water quality management plan. So as we're contemplating this, we should also be cross-checking with section 22.8 of that regulation.
Okay. Thank you. This has been a good discussion. Anything else? I don't see anybody here. Anybody online got any other comments? Angie, do you have any?
I think that this is something that's going to come up again because I'll work on, you'll see some actual red line edits and we'll have more discussion about it. But this is, yeah, as Jonathan said, good discussion to start with.
And quickly, just so I'm on the same page as everyone, are we changing anything about the next round of reviews coming up next month? So we'll just work on that and make that vote when it's ready.
Yeah, I don't
Thank
think
you.
anything's changing at this point, right, Angie?
It's probably going to be 2026.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, if nothing else on item 6B, we will move on. Information item, state revolving fund eligibility survey.
I just want to make sure everyone is aware that the state revolving fund eligibility survey is open. It's due by June 30th. And if you have questions, you can reach out to them directly. I also have Sean Oliver's contact information. He presented to us, I believe it was January. You can reach out to him directly. In case anyone isn't aware, you need to do that eligibility survey in order to be eligible for their SRF funds. I also have that presentation from January or whenever they presented if you want more information on the SRF. So just want to make everyone aware of that.
Thank you, Angie. And before I forget, Ann, you had a comment earlier. You thought you were going to have something. Is
Well-
there anything you want to bring before this committee?
Yes, the 208 plan, that really wasn't it. But what Angie just mentioned about the survey and all that sort of thing for grants, would Angie send that to Caleb, our town manager, and the mayor and Jesse Stroop, the people in Green Mountain Falls, you know, if we can get any help with rural wastewater? I don't understand it, of course. I'm only a lawyer. I don't understand anything really. But I'm in Iowa right now, and I'm actually planning to move here because of my age. I'm really very interested, and I'm going to ask the town if perhaps someone else would like to be involved that's really going to be there more. I'll come back to our historic houses when I'm able. But this is all so fascinating, and I know that you're all just kind of up the creek now with wondering what's going to be happening in the whole nation. But I wish you luck, and it's so interesting. I may still tune in and not ever say anything just because I'm interested. Thank you so much. And Angie, thank you for helping with the PPACG to help the little towns with our difficulties. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, Angie, for helping out.
Thanks, Ann. I just want to let you know I have been in contact with Caleb and he's aware of the SRF funds and the survey. So I shared the information with him.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, I don't have to know everything, but I just thought I'd just mention that again. And thank you very much. I think Caleb's really on the ball for our little town. He's a real go-getter, and I really appreciate him. And you too, Angie. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All righty, moving on to item number 8, member entity announcements. Anybody have anything for us? Seeing none. Kevin, do you have an announcement about your position at Cherokee that a lot of people might not know?
Well, thank you for putting me on the spot. The board approved my contract to stay on as Cherokee General Manager long term. So you'll be seeing me around here for a while.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You have no idea what you're getting yourself into, but I'm just kidding. And if you need anything at all, please call Roy, because from the Stone Age, he's been around.
Yeah, I think I already called him a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago
that's
on
right.
something.
That's right. Oh, that's great. Okay, I don't hear or see anything for anybody else. All right, meeting schedule. Angie, again, just as it monthly as it comes up. Okay. All righty. I want to thank Angie for keeping us all on the straight and narrow here, doing the agendas and communicating with me and others, and obviously donating her time to the smaller communities. So thank you, Angie, for that. And also Jared for keeping us online and technically savvy here. As I get older, I'm asking my younger kids how to do stuff. That's that. But
That's nice.
all right. If anybody doesn't have anything else, we will adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Hey.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you all. Great discussion today.